Good morning. I'm Sonia Hunsinger, Executive Director of Downtown Inc. Thank you all for coming out this morning to a packed house for our downtown update. Before we get started, I want to recognize a few people in the audience. We have Bob Riley here representing Congressman Scott Perry. We have County Commissioners Doug Hoke and Chris Riley. And we have Councilman Michael Helfrich. Thank you for being here. I'd also like to introduce you to a few of our board members. Our board president, Krista Dar, back in the corner. Our vice president, Eric Menzer, probably running around somewhere. Eric, if you can hear me, thank you for hosting us. Thank everyone and the staff at the Revolution for hosting us this morning and providing breakfast. Gary Sonk, our board treasurer, also here. John Kleindienst, Patty Stirk, and Dylan Bauer are our board members here this morning. Two quick things before I introduce our first presenter. On your seat, you found a flyer introducing our partnership with Shipley Energy. This is a new partnership for us, and if you are inclined at all to review your energy provider, whether it's your home, your business, any property you own, I'd invite you to take a look at that flyer. Shipley will come out, they will assess your current usage and let you know up front if they can present any energy savings, any cost savings for you. If they can and you contract with them, a portion of your savings will be donated to Downtown Inc. So it's kind of a win-win-win. You save money, you support a locally owned, community-minded business in Shipley Energy, and then you also simultaneously donate to Downtown York and downtown revitalization. So there's no money out of your pocket, but it helps support all three. So I'd encourage you to take a look at that. Secondly, I had asked Jim Gross, I'll hold up here, to present an update this morning on the road projects that are going on downtown. The off-roading projects that are going on downtown. He couldn't be here this morning, but he did send me an email, so I want to read that for you so you guys have an update on that. On the Philadelphia Street Bridge project, contractor has completed the south side of the bridge, and they're currently working on the north side. The County of York has announced that the bridge contractor will be closing West Philadelphia Street on Sunday, August 23rd. Closing is to allow the contractor to set the new bridge beams on the north side of the bridge. A detour for traffic will be in place during the closure, and motorists can expect delays. The street closure will be in effect from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Sunday, August 23rd. On the Market Street paving project, otherwise known as the off-roading project, the contractor has completed base work on the west end of Market Street between Carlisle and Pershing. Milling is now underway on this section and should be completed in the next few days. Paving from Carlisle to Pershing will follow. The contractor's planning to start on the downtown core between Pershing and Duke Street the week of August 24th, so that's next week. And they're planning to do this work at night. This is important. There will be street closures on Market Street from Pershing to Duke between 7 p.m. and 6 a.m. So plan accordingly. The portion of the work is expected to take 2 weeks. So Market from Pershing to Duke closed from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. for 2 weeks. The contractor will continue to work eastward towards Harrison Street, and the project is going well and remains on schedule. If you want to receive text alerts on downtown traffic or any other emergency information that impacts downtown, you can text Downtown York, all one word, to 80123, and Downtown Inc. will send out any kind of information that impacts downtown. So we'll send out reminders on road closings, we'll send out information on emergency issues, so if you're interested, you can sign up for free at that. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to the new President and CEO of the Strand Capital, Todd Fogdahl. There he is, right there.
Thank you. This is an impressive group for such an early time on a Tuesday. Thanks so much for your welcome. Thank you all. I'm starting to see some faces that look familiar to me, and eventually I'll start to connect the names with those faces. I arrived here back in June from Des Moines, Iowa, where I had spent 10 years at a performing arts center there, and really it's spent my whole life in the Midwest. So this is a great experience for me and my wife and kids to be coming out here and coming out to York, and we've just been so pleased to come here. And a lot of what I've been doing in my first couple of months here is just getting out in the community, meeting various people, and there's been any number of times when the conversation will continue, and then somebody's voice will get a little bit lower, and they'll say, "So, why did you come to York?" There are many reasons that we came to York. I mean, I think absolutely the Strand Capital and that space and our organization it's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, there are few communities that have spaces of this quality and this vibrancy like we do here in York. My family, my wife and 2 kids, we were very attracted by the size of the community, by the quality of life in this community, by the feel of the community. Honestly, in many ways, it feels very Midwestern to us. We love how you've got the urban, the suburban, the rural all so close together and also accessible. And then just being here a little bit and feeling the energy and seeing and hearing about what's going on in the downtown. I mean, I can't imagine a better time to be moving into this community and moving in with an organization that has such a key and central role as a downtown partner. I mean, I hear over and over and over again from people how important the Strand is as a community centerpiece, how much the community has supported this organization. And it's a place obviously of pride, it's a place of aspiration, and we want it to be a place of welcome for the community as well. And we're committed to making that happen and being a partner to the community. I mean, we're a home to any number of local nonprofit groups who house in our venue, who have their offices in our venue and share in those services, the York Symphony and the Weary Arts Group and others. We have many, many community organizations who perform in our spaces, from the symphony to Greater York Dance to the Honors Choir to any number of those. And one of the things that really excites me as well about the organization is how much we're doing with the schools. We have our Stage the Page program, which provides a literacy, arts, and live theater experience to 10,000 kids in the county every year. We have a partnership with William Penn High that's just entering into its 2nd year, where we are providing and reactivating the Performing Arts Institute and bringing daytime classes and after-school performance experiences to the students there, and really see growing that back to being the magnet program that attracts students from all over the county like that program used to be. And you're going to be hearing more about a new playwriting festival that we are adding that's going to be encouraging kids to write, to get into theater from the aspect of being a playwright, and then having an opportunity to have their plays performed on our stages. I don't need to tell any of you that, we need the community to succeed, and we know that the community and the downtown needs us to succeed as well. And I brought a copy of our program and the shows that we've announced this season. This is obviously an integral part of that. We kick into our season on October 7th, and we are flying. We have an Eagles tribute band. We go right into Hal Holbrook doing his famous Mark Twain show. We have banjo virtuosos Bella Fleck and Abigail Washburn with bluegrass, traditional music. we have comedy, we have the beginning of the York Symphony Orchestra. That's all in the first 2 weeks of the season. We're bringing Broadway back in a big way. We've got a Broadway bundle that we're selling this year with Beauty and the Beast and Mamma Mia and Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. If you like dance, we have a whole variety of dance. We have flamenco dance. We have Ailey 2, one of the Alvin Ailey companies, coming with us. If you have young people in your lives, I'm going to tell you the way into their hearts, and that is Peppa Pig. Peppa Pig is the hottest show on Nickelodeon right now. I can't believe as I walk around Central Market and kids are being pulled along in carts or in strollers and they're holding their iDevices, every one of them's watching Peppa Pig. And that's going to be a fantastic show. It's coming to our stage in November. I mean, we have artists from the Pitch Perfect 2 movie in the Vocalocity show. I mean, we have a huge range of programs, and literally, I think something that everybody can look at and either find something that they are really excited to come and see or something that they're intrigued with. Please come and check us out, be a part of that. We look forward to being a part in the community. I look forward to getting to know you and being able to work together. And with that, I'm excited to introduce one of our partners, Cal Weary from the Weary Arts Group.
I'm new to your community. No, I'm just kidding. Hi, I'm Cal. I'm Cal Weary, and I'm really happy to be in front of you today, especially in this space that we've spent a lot of time in. The reason I'm here to speak to you today is about these things in front of you. The cameras in front of you are a part of White Rose Community Television. And why is White Rose Community Television a part of downtown? Because it's part of York. For many years, the city has kept White Rose Community Television going, but there's content that's been missing. Your content, your story, Pastor, your story, the story of our people has not been being told. And so now the time has come for us to get back to that. Right, Mike? Exactly. So the reason why Weary Arts Group is involved right now, and the reason why I'm speaking to you is we build content. That's what we do. We make shows, we do skits, we do presentations, and we want to help York County to start telling its story again. And one of the steps in that direction is at Market View Arts. Right now, in a very small, insignificant room that will one day be something special, we're building a video nook there. And in that video nook, we'll be able to teach people how to make video, to bring things that they've worked on and help them to enhance it, and sometimes just a place for them to be able to drop that off. But the cool part about it is that we're helping to bring White Rose Community Television into the middle of the city. So on a first Friday, when you're walking by and you're watching some of the folks down in the basement, hopefully you all know where Market View Arts is, right? Yep. You do? You've all been there? You go every first Friday, right? Yes? You should? Okay. Right across the street from the market, right beside the parking garage on Philadelphia Street. Right in that basement, you'll be able to come in there and watch us working with folks and teaching them how to tell their story. If you don't know where White Rose Community Television is, it airs on 16 and 18 when you are a Comcast subscriber, but you can also connect to it online. There are a range of wonderful programs that are still there, and for anyone who has that worry about us coming in and trying to push that program, absolutely not. Those programs are still going to be there. We're going to help to enhance them and make them better. If you love Culture in Maine will be there. If you love Joe Live, we'll push Joe Live to push it a little harder. But, because who doesn't love Joe Live? So, but what we're also asking is, how are you? What we're also asking is for you to come and start giving us your stories again. Randy, we need you to give us your stories again. We need more. Through strategic planning and with working with some great downtown organizations, we're going to be doing some things that you've never seen on the station before. We're working with YRK Magazine, our local newspapers. I have a really good friend at a place called Shipley Energy who we've talked about a number of things that we can put on the air. So, I'm not saying, but the main thing is to really say to York County, this is your station, these are your stations, and we really want to see what you have to tell us about your town. That's really the most important part. Besides that, we're really going to try to marry a lot of the things that we already do with what is easily, as far as going to local schools, our local colleges, and bringing some of the content from them and having them be a part of what's happening with White Rose Community Television, because of course, their story is our story too. A lot of the content is already there. There was a time when if you wanted to put something on TV, you had to have a special camera, and it had to go through hours of editing. Well, who can't edit a video on their phone these days, the smartphones that you have, and we can help you to get that stuff there. So that is really the main reason that I'm here to speak today, and I'm looking forward to what we're going to be able to do at Market View Arts, and also what we're going to be able to do with the community. I think that's the fastest I've ever spoken about anything. And anybody who knows me knows how long-winded I can be about that. Does anyone have any questions? Any questions? None?
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you getting students from the colleges that are involved in communication arts involved?
We are in negotiations to do that right this minute. If you turn to your right, I just talked to that guy yesterday about it. And everybody knows Dominic Delgarpini, so if he says he's going to do it, it's going to happen. So we definitely are. We're looking at internships. We're definitely looking at working with city school students because that's my life's blood. And so the main point is to really get our community involved, not just the city, but the county also. And we have partnerships with groups like the Strand Capital. There's lots of spaces that we can use in this town to tell that story. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
What are your funding streams?
Right now, the way that we're working with that is it works through underwriting. So the reason why we need the content is so that we can go out and we can seek underwriting. Right now, the funding streams are coming from the county and also from the city. But as far as the new content is concerned, many of these things can be done without any cost right now, to begin with. But as those costs come, we look for underwriting. Without content, we can't get the underwriting. Without underwriting, we can't continue to move forward. But right now, we're looking at the community. Looking at the community to give us what we need to put on the air. I said I wasn't going to take questions. I couldn't help myself. Anything else? Thank you very much for your time. And wait. And next up, Tim Fulton and Tim Miller, and they're going to tell you about some wonderful things happening downtown.
Good morning, everyone. I promise to do my best not to speak even faster than Cal, but I don't know if I can keep that promise. Tim and I are going to provide you with a quick update on major projects in the works in the public landscape and how they can serve to support efforts to bring and retain more residents into the downtown. In front of you is a map that shows all the projects that we will be discussing. I think it is pretty clear that in focusing on the rail trail corridor and on Continental Square, that we're focusing on areas that are key to bringing people together and supporting economic development. With all of these locations, there has been efforts made to achieve multiple positive impacts through individual projects, so that a trail reconstruction project not only improves connectivity between York College and the downtown, but it also mitigates stormwater issues, or that a lighting project improves the aesthetics of a key placemaking asset, but it also improves impressions of safety on the part of passersby. First off, I want to discuss the rail trail corridor projects in rough chronological order so that you have a sense of what you'll be seeing over the next few years. First out of the gate in terms of the beginning of these projects will be a planning project brought to you by local service providers that will be a City of York Green Infrastructure Plan, funded by the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, DCNR, as well as contributions by more than a dozen donors. This project will include the development of a citywide green action plan, but will focus on future projects in and near the Northwest Triangle. Among the projects to be considered are the extension of the rail trail to North George Street, finally, bicycle and pedestrian connections between the trail and the Market District, new plans for Lafayette Plaza, which is the parking lot behind the Colonial Courthouse, and conceptual designs for a green road to the Northwest Triangle that will connect Pershing Avenue and North Street while capturing some of the contaminants of urban runoff before they can enter the Cadorus Creek. We will be seeking public comment on all of these ideas and look forward to scheduling the first of at least 3 public meetings later this year. The second project I want to discuss is going to be the first that we will see come to fruition. Next spring, through a City of York DCNR grant and over $400,000 of local matching funds, the rail trail in Riverfront Park from York College to Lafayette Plaza will be reconstructed with new pervious pavement and LED lighting. This project will improve the safety of what is the most direct route between York College and the downtown, while also improving the protection of the Codorus Creek. Next slide. By the spring of 2017, we should be ready to build the rail trail extension from Philadelphia Street to the York Armory on George Street. This PennDOT-funded project, worth over $1 million, will also include pervious pavement and LED lighting, as well as the removal of a traffic signal at Jefferson Street in favor of adding a signal with bike and pedestrian flashers on Hamilton Avenue. We are still seeking donors to contribute to soft costs of the project of up to $400,000. So $1 million is a lot of money, but we still need a bit more. Next slide, please. And finally, I just wanted to briefly comment on the final portion of the rail trail to be completed, that area between the York Armory and Route 30. At this point, I can only say that Downtown Inc. is supporting efforts by the York County Rail Trail Authority, I think Gwen is here, to try to speed up completion of what we hope to see completed in 2017 or 2018, leaving us with a fully connected rail trail in just the next few years. With that, I'm going to pass it on to Tim Fulton to talk about a few more projects.
Good morning. Nice to see everybody out this morning. About 4 years ago, there was an effort headed up by the York County Community Foundation to revitalize and recapture Continental Square. And the architect and manager of that design process is Frank Dittenhafer, who's sitting somewhere out here. There he is. And it involved a number of improvements. The implementation of this grand scheme has been taken over by Downtown Inc. And as the first part of the improvements to the square, we have an initiative to illuminate the 7 facades that surround the square and to highlight the significant architecture, the architectural features, and give the square a sense of place and a sense of the crossroads of York County, which in fact it really is. We are now, through a grant from the York County Community Foundation, developing the schematics for this lighting program, the types of lights that we put on the facades. If we can go to the next slide. Here you see a composite plan of all of the buildings with the types of lights and the features of the buildings that would be illuminated. We will be, after this phase of the project, we will be working with each of the building owners to obtain approvals with a facade easement to install the lights, and then developing the funding required to install all of these lights around the square and create this wonderful array of lighting which will really kind of give you a sense of place as you stand there in the square and make it as I say, really recognizing it as the crossroads of York County. Next slide here, we have another lighting project, which is part of our emphasis on the Codorus Creek and trying to make that the asset that it should be to all of us. We have 7 bridges that cross the creek and 2 very significant ones. Currently, the Philadelphia Street Bridge, which was talked about earlier, is under reconstruction. And so we have a plan to illuminate each one of those bridges to celebrate the crossing of the creek, to give it some visual interest, imagining the punctuation of the bridges as you look up and down the creek, seeing lights like this which would illuminate the sidewalk, perhaps a little bit of spillover light into the water, some shimmering of that. And these are LED lights that would be placed under the railing so that it gives a subtle effect, but it's one where we have the opportunity to do it with multiple colors. So you could have a white light, you could have a green light, you could have red light, you could have something for St. Patrick's Day, something for Easter. You pick the colors. So it's a way to enliven these bridges and to give some visual interest and to really give a sense of crossing and a sense of place of the Codorus Creek. Next slide. So what Tim talked about and what I talked about here amounts to over $4 million of improvements, public improvements to create a sense of place, improving the urban landscape. But I think just as important as improving the landscape, what this does is to improve the environment, the investment environment for developers to create living places, working places, and fun places. So what Downtown Inc. did over the last few months was to engage a consultant to look at the residential market and to determine what is the depth of development that could take place with residential development over the next few years. Excuse me. What we found is that currently there are over 380 residential units, apartments that are coming online over the next 12 to 18 months. And in addition to that, the market study showed that there is a demand for over 100 additional units over the next 2 years. So for the developers of the world, the message is there is a market and there is market demand, and there is, I think, going to be more demand than the 100 units as these landscape and urban amenities come online, and as more apartments are developed, there's a critical mass that will continue, and there will be an induced demand by all of these improvements. Next one is Derek Dilks, and I'm going to stand in for Derek Dilks right now because we have a similar head. Derek was caught up in a development project issue this morning, and he was not able to be here. But what Derek is going to talk about, Frank Dittenhafer, who is his architect, and I will summarize for you. This has to do with the Citizens Bank building at Continental Square. A very significant, beautiful building that we really need to tip our hat to the Redevelopment Authority for having the foresight to acquire this building when it was for sale, to put it in safekeeping, and then to find a developer like Derek Dilks who can do a quality job developing it and recreating a bank building into more livable and commercial space. So Frank, since you designed this, tell them about it.
So I get to be the other half of Derek Dilks, even though I have more hair. So I have been working with Derek Dilks over the past months, and as Tim said, that's been great. Derek is the type of developer, like most developers, he's very deliberate, but he wants to be sure he does the right things, particularly with a building at Continental Square like the Citizens Bank building. He's very anxious to get going on a redevelopment of that project. Most likely it will proceed in not too many months from now, probably in a series of phases. What Derek and I have worked on and looked at, and I'll talk about in the plans, is really a mixed use. And again, at a location like Continental Square, that certainly seems to make sense. And it's a very interesting building. It's one of those great facades that will be lit up at Continental Square. It's the one with the big arch, the Beaux-Arts building, and it has this magnificent 45-foot tall former banking room space inside of it. So the plans that Derek and I have been working on really for the 4 levels of the building and the roof, I'll sort of walk through. On the far right is the lower level plan, and they go up to the far, on your far left would be the roof plan. And so the one second from the right is really the ground level plan at Continental Square. The main part of the project that Derek really is focused on, wants to do well, is to have a bistro, a restaurant, in that main banking room space to really take advantage of that type of presence on Continental Square with al fresco dining spilling out of sort of the eastern part of that building onto the square. The other components on upper levels, really what's being looked at are a series of nice residential units. The property really is composed of 3 parts. There's a piece at the north, sort of a linear building that probably will be developed as the first phase. And then there's an eastern part that was added on to the bank, which is on the right part of your screen. So the residential components of the project would be the orange portions. What's being looked at is for the 3 levels of the north building to be residential use, the second and third levels of the eastern addition to the bank to be residential use, And then for also an infusion of arts-related components on the ground level nearby the restaurant, and actually on a mezzanine at the second level, and with a roof deck. As you can imagine, the view from the roof is spectacular at that location, and so a roof deck has always been in the plans. Derek has been talking to arts organizations. He's been talking to local college and higher education people about partnering on parts of the project. And again, his focus is to get going on probably the north building sooner than the restaurant. He probably would do the second phase, would be the residential portions on the second and third floor. And when he finds the right restaurateur, and he's had several conversations, that would really be the third phase or whenever it happens. So there, in addition to the plans, there are just some conceptual renderings that really show how dynamic that restaurant space could be, in the 45-foot vault with a mezzanine for dining or for art exhibition, and residential units with great views out on the Continental Square. Again, it'll be a very exciting blend of old and new at a great location in downtown New York.
How many units?
It'll be about 8 to 10 units. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. And our next presenter is Jimmy Ilias, talking about the Market and Penn Farmers Market.
Morning, everybody. As he said, Jimmy Ilias. I'm the current volunteer market manager at the Market and Penn Farmers Market. My family has been selling meat and produce there since the early 1930s. That's why I'm there. It's a family thing for us. There's a ton of history there. There's a ton of heritage there. I also believe that building just has a ton of potential. This picture here, that's actually from, I'm told, 1930s. That's Speed and Esther Keeney at their produce stand at that time. Well, when I'm in the market, if I get to stop for a split second, I'm always like, man, if these walls could talk, the stories that they would tell, it'd be way better than my Facebook newsfeed. I'm sure of that. There's so much history in that place. In 2016, the market will be celebrating 150 years, and we'll get to that a little bit more. When the farmers get to sell their produce, my experience with being in there with my family is that each transaction that happens is not just them simply selling their produce. It's a small slice of them having a positive impact on that community. And that's what I believe, even more than just selling produce or having a business in there, that building is there to have an impact on that community. WECO, there's 3 neighborhoods that surround that community. Those 3 neighborhoods, the city. In the last time the market kind of went through a revitalization stage was in right around 1975. My grandfather was the leader that spearheaded that. What they did was they incorporated with 3,000 shares. We kind of just realized this recently as we've been digging through history and digging things back up. They only ever sold roughly 1,200 shares of those 3,000 shares. That's something, keep that in the back of your head. I'm going to come back to that. I do want to keep moving forward. Where we are right now, if you know about the market, the truth is it's been a struggle. I've faced failure right in the face personally. I tried starting a deli in there to try to help out. It lasted a year. I just couldn't do it anymore. The finances weren't there. The anxiety with something like that is incredible. I'm thankful that I don't have it now because I didn't want anything to do with it a month ago. I was just like, I'm done, but that's not the case anymore. And as there are fewer farmers in the area, replacing those farmers in having just a space to be able to sell something, it's basically impossible. I was told a statistic is, now this could be a year old now, last year the average age of a farmer was 62. The following year it's 67. They're going out faster than we can think. Like I said, the market has a ton of history. We don't want to lose that, so we realize that we need to think differently in how we keep the farmer going. We recognize also that the market is a key anchor in WECO. If you don't know about WECO, You should. Dave and Steve, they're here. They do awesome with that. There's just a bunch of people here who are all about that. We also know that the market could be an awesome gateway as people come into downtown. If they're coming from the west side, we want that to be welcoming. We know we have a long way to go, but that's what we want for it. With the help of Downtown Inc., we've been doing a ton of things to stabilize this thing and to begin revitalization. We started off with establishing what is called Friends of the Farmers Market. It's 16 people in the community that are stakeholders that are saying, hey, we want to be a part of this. We want to get this thing back rolling. A bunch of them are here, and to all of you, thank you so much. We've been working on things like what can we do to better the facilities, programming, what are different things we can do to bring people into the market, product, what do we want to be about, what do we want to sell, to continue with what we're going. Business model, it might look totally different than what my grandfather did in 1975. We realize that might be a change that we need to do to continue going forward. We've recently held, this is crazy to me, we've recently held the first meeting of the shareholders in over 30 years. That's just how, this is what I'm dealing with. And it was fantastic. With that meeting, we established a new board of directors. We have 7 people who are going to tag team with what's going on there to really get this thing going. We've received some grants. I was thinking about this last night. It's really crazy. We received a grant for elderly people, and we received a grant for kids, and we worked with different organizations to do this. The elderly one is we have the opportunity, we package up food, we take it out to the York Housing Authority on the east side and deliver it to them. That's been awesome. Those people appreciate that so much. It's been so cool to be able to, and all I do is pack it up and take it out there, and they just think it's the greatest thing in the world. I'm like, yes, this is great. Also, we've partnered with the YMCA and Lincoln Charter School. The kids in that area, over the summer, they've had the opportunity to come in and take a tour of the market, but then even a step further, the teachers are teaching them how to come to the market and shop with the farmers that we have. It's just awesome seeing in there. They get a $5 voucher, they come in, they spend it, and they go home with whatever, whether there was a squash or a watermelon, whatever it is. And also, that's income for our farmers at the market to help drive finances there. We hosted a Bacon Fest back in June. It went well, but after doing it, we're like, man, there's this, and this. We have a laundry list of things that we know we can do better, and we want to do that. We'll be participating in the Halloween parade. I get the privilege of driving that big John Deere tractor down Market Street. One of the coolest things. We'll be hosting them with Downtown Inc., the Masquerade Ball. I'm excited for that. I didn't get to go last year, but I heard it was a blast. So I'm pumped to be able to host that. We are still currently exploring new ways to recruit vendors and patrons. That's something where we're trying to figure that out. It's not easy, but we're trying to work on that. Some other things that we had happen, our parking blocks are painted sweet like everyone else's in New York City. Bring On Play painted us a really cool, this thing here, hopscotch out in front of Market Street, so if you can hopscotch your way into the front doors of the market. The Rescue Mission, Tiff and Matt are here from the Rescue Mission. They have been awesome. My dad went out the other week, it was probably a couple months ago, he's like, I'm going to go out and try to pull some weeds out along the edge of the parking lot. It wasn't but a minute. He comes back and he goes, there's nothing out there. I was like, I bet Matt had his guys over there, and they got to it even before. They've been incredible with helping us out with that. Hang on, my papers are in the wrong order. So the future, where do we go from here? What are we doing? One thing we need to talk about is what I've been finding out is looking at some other farmers markets, not in this area, but in other areas. At some point, most of them have gotten to a point of failure where their municipalities have had to take over and run them. I think it's awesome. In New York, we have 2 privately owned markets, and I think that's great, and I think that says a lot about York and who we are, and I think it's important that we continue with that, to keep them privately owned. It says that we have the community that's willing to stand behind them and to push them forward, and that we have enough here to sustain both of them. People ask me, what about Central Market? Central Market's awesome. I like Central Market. From my opinion, we don't want to compete with Central Market. I want to complement Central Market. That's the goal. One of my dreams is if we can get Farmers Market to have the same appeal that Central does. Both markets are open on a Tuesday. They have about half the business going that they'd like to have. If we could get buses to come in, one goes to one market, one goes to the other, and then during the middle of the day they flip-flop, go to the other market. I think it'd be awesome. So we don't want to compete. We actually want to complement them. We want it to be a neighborhood grocery. Like I said, there's 3 residential areas that are kind of right around the market. We got to figure out how to connect with them. It seems as over the years there's been some sort of disconnect there, and we know some of the issues, and we're working on attacking those issues. Another one of my dreams is there's so much history there. If we're going to keep writing history, I feel we need to get on the cutting edge side of farming, which this day and age is aquaponics, hydroponics, that kind of thing. What would it? I actually met with a good friend of mine yesterday over lunch saying, hey, let's put a business plan together to grow some stuff inside that market. And with what we're putting together is very basic. We just want to try it. We want to get it started and go from there. And so that's how we want to start writing history. That if we can get this indoor growing environment up and going, that will open doors to 1 million possibilities of having students in there. To do that, you could take a farm-to-table restaurant to a whole nother level where you get to go in and pick your own stuff, watch it be cooked, and then eat it. These are the possibilities that are there for that. Like I said, the biggest thing, the impact that could have on that community is huge. We recently partnered with Gavin Advertising. I love being in their building because it's like, man, this is cool. These people are doing stuff. They're helping us rebrand the market and promote it. The legal name for the market is Market and Penn Farmers Market. I mean, what a business has 2 words in their name twice? And I get to. There's a story behind that. If you can ask me about it, I get to thank my grandfather for that. So things take money. We all know that. So how are we going to generate money to keep things moving? Like we've done before, we're going to keep going after grants and keep applying for those. I've had a ton of help with that. Writing like that, yeah, that's crazy, but I've had a ton of help, and to those people, thank you so much. But we do have a financial resource at our disposal, which I mentioned before. When they incorporated the market in 1975, they had those 3,000 shares. Like I said, they only sold roughly 1,200, so we still have those shares available to sell. And it's something we're still trying to figure out. We know they're there. There is a sign-up sheet back on this corner of the table. If you're interested in maybe potentially owning one of those shares, owning a part of the oldest market in York, sign up back there. Once we get more details, we can get that out to you. Next year we'll be celebrating 150 years. The plan is to host a birthday party, and if you own at least one of those shares, you will get a VIP pass to the birthday party at the farmers market. To me, there's 2 types of people that I've come across, and one is people who will look around and say, hey, they just want to tell you what's going on. And usually they tell you everything that's wrong, and they don't want to tell you everything that's right. And then there's people who are like, we already know what's wrong, we're going to do something about it. And that's the kind of person that I want to try to continue to be, is somebody who says, yeah, we know this, but we want to keep going forward, and we want to be somebody who maybe it won't work, but I want to keep being somebody who says, yeah, we're going to keep trying. We want to be a people of change. How we do that, like we talked about, we're going to keep partnering with Downtown Inc., the city, YCEA, York County Economic Alliance. Blando has been awesome. Nicole Davis, Shavlosky Buffalo, those people have been incredible. I tell Nikki, I said, if our market master was as smart as you, these problems would have gone away a lot faster. But that's the idea. Keep working with them to bring the market back to its full potential as a neighborhood anchor, a partner with the community to leave a lasting impact, and just to be, as we've always been, a local place to source produce. Thank you so much. And does anybody have any questions?
The shares.
We didn't actually nail down a number yet on that. Any other questions?
How old is the building?
The building, the original structure was built in 1866, and then they added on 2 different times, and I believe the 1870s. So the whole building's older than dirt. Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Next, we have Tim Miller and Adam Walters to talk about streetscape inventory.
Thank you, Jimmy. That was fantastic. That was really good. I doubt you came here expecting to hear about sidewalks twice this morning, but you're going to. I'll let Adam go ahead and join me up here. This time, I'm pleased to be joined by Adam Walters, the graduate intern who's been so valuable this summer, and whose work you'll see reflected in the slides that we're about to present. I also want to note before we begin is that the issues confronted in this streetscape inventory are nearly universal in urban environments. A city block services more users and users with more diverse needs than any suburban block ever could. And the city must attend to those blocks with all of the constraints with which we are familiar, financial and otherwise. Our goal is not to cast aspersions on the good work being done, but to support and add to that work by pulling together support from other resources in the community. This is all you're here. And so in preparation for the comprehensive downtown transportation study that we intend to undertake next year, coming soon to the next downtown update, Adam spent nearly the early half of this summer building an inventory of those features in the urban landscape which either add to or detract from the experience of downtown workers, residents, and visitors. By partnering with members of Downtown Inc.'s Urban Landscapes Committee and the City of York's Transportation Task Force, and through community engagement and pilot walks, we determined what questions most needed to be asked in conducting the audit. With the assistance of Danielle Stamen of LSC Designs, we found freely available tools that allowed us to collect the data and represent it graphically through online mapping software. Those findings were grouped into 5 categories. First, connectivity, which deals with ease of movement and access for all users. Secondly, pedestrian impediments, which includes all hazards and what we would think of as the pedestrian zone. Placemaking, which refers to those elements that differentiate York from other communities. Public blight, or the eyesores of the landscape, which I think we all understand. And signage, which allows people to orient themselves throughout the downtown.
All right, so by collecting almost 900 points of data, we're able to arrive at a series of maps that look very similar to the one on display here. This particular map depicts the data collected for the connectivity heading, and if you're familiar with the Central Business District's boundaries, you can probably glean from this image how the amalgamation of these individual pinpoints correspond directly to that map. So you can see how the dots on the map correspond to the Market District, and I can't reach that far, but Market District, Northwest Triangle, the ball field, and the northernmost part where we're sitting right now. And then the rest of it roughly is framed by Queen Street, College Ave to the south, Pershing Avenue, and then of course WECO is off to the left-hand side of the screen. The postage stamp size box on the top left-hand corner of the screen breaks down each element within the connectivity heading and designates a color to make locating them on the map much easier. And then by clicking on any of the items in our postage stamp box, we're able to isolate the individual responses to answer the question of what element of connectivity are we looking at. This map displays seating, which is designated by the darker green dots. Also, if you look closely, you can see that all of the other data points are still visible, both on the top left of the screen as well as on the map, but they've been relegated to the background again, just to make identifying individual elements much easier. This is zoomed in a little bit, and this is a more focused image which views specific instances of publicly available seating in the area around Continental Square. The dark red dot, pretty much in the center of the image, has been selected by clicking on it, and the new rectangular box on the right-hand side of the screen displays information that corresponds to that specific pinpoint. Included, among other things, in this new box is an ID number, a date and timestamp, as well as specific GPS coordinates, so you can tell exactly where in the landscape, precisely where in the landscape these elements occur. It also includes a picture that can be selected and expanded to a more viewable size. So this picture was taken, you might recognize it, this picture was taken right off of Continental Square on the unit block of West Market Street, and it just demonstrates how the map can be broken down and how focused and specific this tool can be used to identify any number of things in the environment. This slide depicts a 30,000-foot view, or a bird's eye view, if you will, for each of the remaining category headings. So each map shows a distribution of assets and impairments, where they may be clustered, where there are gaps or opportunities in the landscape, and where opportunities exist for making improvements that are once feasible and significant.
So, what's next? Working with our partners, Downtown Inc. will use this information to prioritize opportunities, apply for grants, and lose the image on the screen. That's okay. And marshal resources to affect change. I'm happy to report that the first example of how we can use this tool is already being set into motion. During our walks, we found 56 occurrences of tripping hazards related to tree wells. In some, I'm already getting a lot of uh-huhs. People have seen bad things happen as a result of those tree wells. In some cases, the tree grates that had rested inside of the wells were stolen, amazingly, dozens of them. In other cases, they were never installed. What that left in some very highly trafficked areas were pockets of 4 to 6 inch drop-offs from the sidewalk level. Adam and I actually, on our first of the pilot walks, we went around to kind of figure out what we were doing. We saw a woman take a header right outside of the strand. The front of her foot went into the well, and then the rest of her body went into the well. It was pretty bad. We've heard, as we've had these conversations in the community, we've heard anecdotally a number of stories like that. We understand the concerns that are there. In order to address these issues, Downtown Inc. is partnering with the City of York and the York Rescue Mission, yet again, to fill many of the tree wells in the downtown. Tomorrow morning, Adam and I will be meeting with Tom Landis of City Parks, who will be providing the truck and the mulch, and Matt Carey of the Rescue Mission, who will be providing the manpower. So that by the end of the summer, what Adam's analysis found to be a chief pedestrian safety hazard will be largely mitigated. There are still a few outliers, as you would imagine, that are a little bit harder than just mulch, but we're working on those too. Our goal is to continue to share this tool and work with partners in this fashion to chip away at whatever physical pitfalls stand in the way of progress in the downtown. And with that, and since Adam is going to be heading back to his studies very shortly, I wanted to ask if anybody has questions for Adam while he's here. Yes?
Can we access these maps on the website yet?
So what we can do, I can send you an email. We haven't gotten to that point yet. We are making sure all the bugs are worked out. These are free tools right now, so there are limitations on them. And a lot of what we're doing right now is trying to figure out how far we can push those limitations in order to share them with the community. But we can get that to you. Yes?
Do you need further help collecting data points?
Not this year, I don't think. I think the goal was, this is the first time we're doing this. I think we've learned a lot. We learned a lot through the pilot walks before using the new tools. And we've learned a lot, obviously, by using these new tools for the first time. But we sort of just gotten our feet wet. I think the goal is to repeat this in the future now that we have a baseline to learn from and to track our progress. And then probably augment, obviously, what we've been studying to this point as we go forward. Yes?
How do you find out if you're a public blight or not?
If you're a public blight or not. Well, honestly, for the most part, I would say that most of the public blight is in the sidewalks and the public spaces more so than private space. That was what we really focused on, was from the building edge out. Yes?
Have you assessed the challenges for the disabled and women pushing strollers? That's one of the concerns I get a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, that was one of the things that we took pretty heavily into consideration. There are instances when you would look at certain what we deem pedestrian tripping hazards, where someone like myself can just hop right over certain things. But I really tried to get down and think about, all right, if I'm using a walker, if I'm in a wheelchair, how would I be able to navigate this this element? So yeah, we definitely did that.
Not to embarrass Adam, but we had what we called the Adam test, because Adam used to be, or still is, I guess, an inline skater. And so what we sort of determined was that if he could safely traverse on his inline skates any particular impediment in the landscape, that it was probably okay. Anything that got in the way of that would be a danger to those using walkers and using wheelchairs. And that was sort of our measuring stick, because we had to create one of some kind that was as close as we could get something that was really definite as we walked around the landscape. Yes?
Is there any plans for you to keep the grates for the mulch there? I mean,
Yes.
anyone that's been down Market Street has seen mulch washing down.
Yes.
Storm, or you said the grates were obviously stolen.
Yes, that's actually part of the conversation tomorrow, is obviously a sustainable plan for fixing this, because and the problem too is that there's 3 or 4 different types of tree wells, and each of those wells may need a different solution. And so we need to work on that tomorrow to figure out how we can move forward in a way that doesn't become a problem year over year.
Jim, what does your signage inventory find out? The need for wayfinding signs, there are too many signs, they're confusing?
Well, for the most part, again, because we were trying to be as objective as possible, which is very difficult in doing this sort of work. But we were trying to find were things that we saw to be impairment. So one of the things that we did try to make sure that we accounted for were those sign holders that had 4 or more signs on an individual sign holder, which we thought was very confusing to the public as they were making their way through the downtown. So we have a map of that. We do have a map of parking wayfinding signs that was actually done earlier in the summer in cooperation with your college. So we are working towards that. One of the issues we did look to for next year is more work on wayfinding signage. Yes.
I just wanted to give Adam a thank you for the work that you did, probably sometimes tedious and sometimes interesting,
Yes.
but will have a lasting impact on our community.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, Michael.
So one more question. Have you looked at the chirper signals at all? The Association for the Blind no longer recommends.
Yes.
They say that they actually disorient the blind.
Yes.
folks, and obviously they're very annoying to most of the rest of us.
Agreed.
So have you looked at any kind of alternatives for that, and so did you use auditory
Yes.
impairments as well as physical impairments?
I wish I had a pen on me to help make the noise that I've seen others make. When we had Dan Burton, who's a nationally renowned walkability expert in town, October of 2012, that was one of the things that grated on his nerves most when walking around our downtown was the volume of the chirping. And he was explaining to us that in Australia, and now I've come to learn that it's become more prominent than just in Australia, that it's a clicking sound. And the clicks come at a quicker pace if you're crossing north-south and a slower pace if you're crossing east-west. And the community has adapted, the sight-impaired community has adapted to understanding this way of crossing. I'm hoping that we can move in that direction. That wasn't a part of this work, obviously, but it's definitely one of the things on our list to look at as we move forward. But again, that's going to be a city issue primarily. We can just sort of help with guidance and supporting whatever we can. If there's nothing, yes.
I just want to say, I love being told how many seconds I have to cross the street.
I'll thank Jim Gross for you and Tom Austin of TRT. They've done fantastic work with that project. If there's nothing else, I will hand the podium over to Krista Dar for some closing comments. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you on behalf of the Downtown Inc. Board and staff. We thank you for being here today and appreciate your patience as we deal with a growing crowd. I've been on the board for 8 years, and those of you that probably attended the first downtown update, because I know I see many familiar faces here, update after update, you'll recall we were in a much smaller venue. We all fit, and I think this is really a testament to the community caring about what's happening in the downtown, and we can't thank you enough for coming out today and for your patience as we work through space. I think next time, Eric, we're going to need that side of the stadium. Good. So, people often ask me, as I'm involved in Downtown Inc., how are things going downtown? And there is no better time than right now for people to see what's happening downtown. You drive into the city from any number of access points, and you can see the physical development that's happening, whether it's a Royal Square project, whether it's One Market Way West, whether it's one of Derek's projects, or one of the numerous developers we're working with. There's a lot happening physically downtown. And there's a lot happening in our activities. If you haven't been to a First Friday lately, Meg will tell you how great those events are growing. We have the opportunity when we block off a street that we can count attendance. In our August First Friday on Beaver Street, which we block off, we counted 5,000 people at our First Friday. In Royal Square, they also had a street blocked off. They counted 2,500. I mean, great turnout and support of things happening downtown. And lastly, you. I mean, you're here, you care, and another great way to see that there's a lot going on downtown. So we thank all of our speakers today. I hope it was helpful to hear about the things that are happening downtown. We really want these updates not just to be about Downtown Inc. and what we're doing, but what others in the community are doing to help make this a vibrant downtown. On the back of your agenda or the topics for today, you will see events. just wanted to point your attention to the many things that are specifically happening, and this represents a 2-week period of time. There is that much going on. We couldn't even get beyond September 5th on this. So lots of good things happening. I would also add the Beaver Creek project, which is August 29th. So if you have nothing to do on August 29th, downtown has 3 different things for you to do. And the one that's not on here is September 10th, which is our Downtown First Awards. We hope you will come out and support that event. It's a great opportunity to hear even more about what Downtown Inc. is doing in the community, and it's a great night to celebrate all of our successful restaurants, merchants, businesses, all the people who make this a great downtown. Just one other comment, if you're on your way in, you saw the pedicabs, Dave and Steve are here. Are you giving rides? Another great example of something vibrant happening in our downtown. So we're really excited about all the great things going on, and we can't thank you enough for being out here today. And, oh, yes, and thank you. And then Jim mentioned the Masquerade Ball, which will be happening in the Farmers Market, and that is on October 24th. And we have very few seats left. So if you are interested in attending, it's a great event. It was at the post office last year. Those who went know what a great time it was. It's going to be equally great at the Farmers Market. So make sure you hit the website to sign up for tickets. Thanks, everyone, for coming, and have a great rest of your day.